On September 23, 2025, President Donald Trump made headlines around the globe when he declared Russia a paper tiger, a phrase that immediately sparked debate and speculation in political circles. He went further, announcing that, with robust Western support, Ukraine could not only defend itself, but actually reclaim every inch of its territory lost since the start of the war. This marked a dramatic and unexpected shift in U.S. policy. Trump, who had previously been cautious about deeper involvement in the conflict, was now openly advocating for a decisive Ukrainian victory. The announcement, delivered via his Truth Social platform, sent shockwaves through diplomatic communities and signaled the start of a new era in American foreign policy toward Russia and Ukraine. For those who have closely followed Trump's political journey, this pivot may have seemed surprising on the surface, but to insiders, it felt almost inevitable given the mounting pressures. Over the past year, Trump had repeatedly tried to pursue diplomacy, offering Russian President Vladimir Putin multiple opportunities to negotiate a peaceful end to the war. Yet, each time Putin responded not with compromise but with further escalation, launching new offensives and deepening the conflict, leaving Trump with fewer options. Now, Trump's new approach is more than just rhetoric. It's a comprehensive strategy designed to give Ukraine the tools and support it needs to achieve victory on the battlefield. The plan includes ramped-up economic pressure on Russia, increased military support for U.S. allies in the region, and the delivery of advanced weapon systems to Ukrainian forces, everything from precision-guided munitions to state-of-the-art drones. This marks a clear transition from simply hoping for a negotiated peace to actively shaping the outcome of the conflict through strength and resolve. The story behind this dramatic change is one of missed diplomatic opportunities, repeated Russian aggression, and a growing realization that old strategies were no longer working. Trump's patience wore thin as Putin used every peace overture as a chance to regroup and press his advantage, leaving the U.S. administration frustrated and determined to act. Understanding this recent history is crucial to grasping why Trump now believes that only a show of strength and unwavering support for Ukraine can bring about a lasting peace. In this video, we'll break down the key events, decisions, and turning points that led to this major policy shift, step by step. Let's dive in and explore how we got here. Before this hardline stance, Trump invested heavily in personal diplomacy. He believed his deal-making skills could end the Ukraine war, holding numerous wonderful calls with Putin. Trump hoped respect and direct talks would lead to peace. But after each call, Russia escalated attacks, sometimes bombing civilian targets like nursing homes. Analysis showed Putin used these talks as distractions, not genuine peace efforts. Trump offered Putin a dignified exit, but Putin saw it as weakness. Each American olive branch was met with more violence. The world watched as Trump's diplomatic efforts were repeatedly rebuffed. Putin's actions made it clear he was committed to military victory, not negotiation. Trump's hopes for a peaceful solution faded with every rejection. The pattern was set. Diplomacy was getting nowhere. Something had to change. In August 2025, Trump made his boldest peace move yet, inviting Vladimir Putin to a high-stakes summit in Alaska. The world watched with bated breath as the two leaders prepared to meet on American soil, a location chosen for its symbolism and distance from the war raging in Europe. Across continents, people hoped this meeting would finally spark real negotiations and perhaps even an end to the conflict. News outlets buzzed with speculation, and the air was thick with anticipation. Hosting Putin on U.S. soil gave him global prestige and a rare opportunity to reset relations with the West. For Trump, it was a chance to prove that diplomacy could still work, even after years of distrust. The plan was ambitious: meet with Trump, then sit down with Ukraine's President Zelensky, all in hopes of brokering a breakthrough. For a brief moment, optimism surged around the globe. There was a sense that history might be made, that peace was within reach. But as soon as the summit ended, the mood shifted. Putin broke his unspoken promise to de-escalate, leaving the world in shock. Instead of moving toward peace, he used the summit's prestige to escalate the war in Ukraine, launching new offensives and deepening the crisis. The Alaska summit, intended as a bridge to peace, became a platform for renewed aggression and shattered hopes. The world was stunned by Putin's betrayal. Leaders scrambled to respond, and ordinary people watched in disbelief as the situation unraveled. Trump had offered Putin a path back to the international community. Instead, Putin chose more violence, dashing hopes for a peaceful resolution. The summit's failure was a turning point, marking the end of diplomatic illusions and the start of a new, more dangerous phase. It proved to Trump and the world that talking to Putin was futile. The door to peaceful negotiation had slammed shut. Diplomacy had hit a dead end, leaving only hard choices ahead. A tougher approach was now unavoidable. The world braced for what would come next. The stakes had never been higher, and the path forward was more uncertain than ever. After Alaska, the First Lady, Melania Trump, made a personal appeal. Writing to Putin, pleading for the children suffering in Ukraine, the letter was heartfelt, a mother's plea for compassion. Putin's response was chilling. Soon after, Russian forces bombed a Ukrainian kindergarten. The timing was seen as a deliberate, cruel insult. This act shocked the world and made clear Putin's disregard for civilian life. Every peace gesture from the Trumps was met with more violence. The kindergarten bombing was a psychological blow, signaling that Putin saw kindness as weakness. It was a turning point. Diplomacy was no longer an option. The Trump administration realized Putin would only respond to strength. The message from Moscow: there would be no peace, only power. The U.S. could not ignore or forgive this. Weeks after the failed summit and the kindergarten bombing, Russia escalated the war dramatically. On September 7, 2025, Russia launched its largest aerial assault on Kyiv, targeting Ukraine's government. The goal: decapitate Ukraine's leadership and force a quick victory. Ukrainian defenses held, but the attack showed Putin's desperation. Russia's aggression spilled into NATO territory. Drones entered Polish and Romanian airspace, and Russian jets violated Estonia's skies. These were not accidents, they were deliberate provocations. NATO's security was now directly threatened. Putin was testing the alliance's resolve, risking a wider war. The message was clear: Russia was a threat to all of Europe. These escalations were the final straws for Trump. The world could no longer ignore the danger. A decisive response was needed. Trump had offered Putin respect, diplomacy, and a way out. In return, Putin lied, escalated, and insulted Trump and his family. Each peace offer was met with more violence: bombing a kindergarten, attacking Kyiv, violating NATO airspace. For Trump, this was personal. He had staked his reputation on diplomacy. Putin made him look naive. In politics and business, there's a rule: you don't betray Donald Trump. The repeated slights and public humiliation left Trump no choice. It was no longer about peace. It was about restoring American strength and credibility. The pivot to a tough, pro-Ukraine stance was now inevitable. Putin had underestimated his adversary. Trump's patience was gone. His response would be decisive. The era of negotiation was over. Now, Trump would ensure Russia faced real consequences. The sleeping giant was awake. Trump's new plan starts with economic warfare. Step 1. Cut off Russia's war funding by targeting its oil and gas exports. The EU, Russia's biggest customer, has sent more money to Moscow for energy than it's given Ukraine in aid. Trump's solution: crippling secondary tariffs on any country buying Russian energy. If a nation buys Russian oil, its exports to the U.S. could face tariffs up to 500%. This forces countries to choose: Russian energy or access to the U.S. market. European nations, Hungary, Slovakia, France, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Turkey, would face immense pressure. The goal: choke off Russia's cash flow, making it hard for Putin to fund his war. Economic pain, not bullets, is the foundation of Trump's strategy. It's the first and most critical step to help Ukraine win. Step 2. Defend NATO's borders with force. After Russian drones and jets violated NATO airspace, Trump called for a tougher response. He declared, if Russian aircraft cross into NATO territory, they should be shot down. No more warnings. This is a major policy shift, signaling that NATO's red lines are real. Allies like Poland quickly voiced support, signaling unity and resolve. The message to Moscow: aggression will be met with action, not hesitation. This new deterrence aims to make Putin think twice before testing NATO. The alliance is ready to defend every inch of its territory. Trump's stance is risky, but he believes it's necessary to prevent a wider war. The era of watching and warning is over. The final step: unleash Ukraine's military. After months of holding back, the world is now watching as Ukraine prepares to take the fight directly to Russian forces. This marks a dramatic shift in strategy, signaling a new phase in the conflict. Until now, Ukraine was barred from using Western-supplied weapons to strike targets inside Russian territory. This restriction was meant to prevent escalation, but it also limited Ukraine's ability to defend itself and respond to attacks launched from across the border. Trump calls this a mistake. You can't win a war with one hand tied behind your back. He argues that real victory requires removing these limits and giving Ukraine the tools it needs to fight back effectively. Under his plan, Ukraine would receive advanced, long-range weapons and, crucially, permission to strike military and energy targets deep inside Russia. This would allow Ukraine to disrupt Russian supply lines, command centers, and critical infrastructure, shifting the balance of power on the battlefield. By targeting these vital assets, Ukraine could cripple Russian logistics, slow down reinforcements, and force Moscow to rethink its strategy. This could fundamentally change the war's dynamics and put Russia on the defensive. Trump's America First arms plan means the U.S. would sell weapons to wealthy European allies, who would then supply Ukraine. This approach keeps American troops out of direct conflict while still supporting Ukraine's fight for sovereignty. This strategy strengthens the U.S. defense industry, creates jobs at home, and shifts much of the financial burden to Europe, making the effort more sustainable for the long term. The three-step strategy, economic pressure, military deterrence, and now unleashing Ukraine's full military potential, is a direct response to Putin's choices and his refusal to negotiate for peace. Putin rejected peace and chose escalation, believing he could outlast Western resolve. But this new approach challenges that calculation. Now Trump's plan aims to end the war on Ukraine's terms, restoring its sovereignty, and sending a clear message to aggressors everywhere. The message is clear. Putin wanted a bigger war, and now he faces one he cannot win. Ukraine, with renewed support, stands ready to turn the tide. The world is watching closely, waiting to see if this bold new strategy will finally bring peace, or push the conflict into uncharted territory.